Hey, so this week I made a bunch of hats and pants for my Best Action street style turtles. And I'm going to show you how I did it, and I'm going to put a picture of my templates in the community tab so you can do it yourself if you like. First, I'm going to do a hat. So how I did that, I'm using 2mm foam and 1mm foam for the bill. When I first attempt at the hat, and I cut it into like 8, but then I made the hat and it came out alright, but it looked funny. Then I looked at one of my hats and they only have 6 sections. So I tried it again. This is my template. It just happened to be the perfect size of 3 servings of spaghetti. This measures your pasta, and it's just a metal thing with round circles as opposed to square circles. And it's a great thing for making templates and tracing circles. So I'm going to start now. Gonna do another hat for Mikey. Raph still needs some pants, so go here. Then I have this fine liner, but it's out of ink, but it's very pointy, so it's going to score it nice and make it a lot easier to cut. So I'm just using 2mm craft foam. So it's going to be a lot easier to cut if I go down deep. That's why I keep going. To make it even easier to cut, I have a fine liner that actually works, and I'm going to do another outline. Now I have my circle. Cut out the square, and then it's a little easier to cut out the circle. Get in there with my small scissors, and when I'm cutting this, the idea is to turn the piece of foam while you slowly cut down on the scissors, and then try to stay in the track that you made when you scored it with the pen. So I'm just turning. There's a bit of a slow process. Doesn't take too long, but you want to be careful to get it around. Alright, we have our first circle. Now for stability, I'm just going to put it in here, and I have this one I just cut out already, and I use that as my template. And I just want to trace out all my future cuts. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the idea, you want like a 90-degree angle between the point where it hits the circle and the point where it comes out. But the inner circle, about the size of their head, is a dime. It's a Canadian dime. I think US dimes are about the same size. So I'll just try to line that up in the middle. I have to lose this mat because it's got warped from being near the heater. I made these toques, or winter hats, out of cutting the fingertips off of cheap gloves. Just like the cheap, like 2 for $1. But now with inflation, it's like 2 for $2.75. Anyway, but because they have like no forehead sticking up from the bandana, can't get it to stay on nicely. Could glue it if I wanted, or if I really wanted. Well, it's kind of on them, but I thought that could be a cool, easy way to make a helmet, or I mean a hat, a toque, but it didn't work out perfectly on these guys. But on a different figure, I think it would be a great toque. That's about center. Just straighten out our lines so it comes down straight from the circle on the inside. And now I want to connect these lines. I'm going to put on my glasses. Super cool, because it's good when I can see well. This is the inside of the hat, so you're not going to see these lines when he's wearing it, but it's good to line it up and also to kind of score it, because when you fold it with the scores, it folds easier. Oh, it's about perfect. Now I have my scissors. I'm going to go around, and now I can adjust even more to get a nice straight line. I'm just going around doing one side at a time. It's easier than switching back every time. And now the other way. Usually I film all this in time lapse, so you don't see me when I'm working like this, or at least not my face. But for this, since I did most of it already, I thought I could do live action for a change. And I'll have less footage I need to go through, less giant video files. So that's basically where we want to be. Now I have my fine liner with no ink, and I'm gonna score this side. These lines might be harder to see because there's no ink, but it's there. Trust me. This is really gonna help because the next step is tough, especially if you have fingers that are bigger than these little flaps. That's why I'm leaving this part on now, but to make it a little easier later, I'm gonna cut straight lines here. Could do it now, but I found it easier to do it after because this little extra edge helps to glue them together, or to hold it while you're gluing it together. Regular Gorilla super glue. So pick a flap. You don't want too much glue, then it'll stick to your fingers. But you get a little strip on there. The first one, you kind of pull it together or push it together. I did this a bunch, but it's hard to remember the best way until I get into it. But yeah, the first one you can just kind of push them together. You want to straight as you can get. I'm bending everything else, but trying to get that as flush as I can. And then once you got it pretty close, you can kind of hold it down onto your tabletop, and it'll stick a bit, but that's okay. So that's one fold, so every time you put it together, it's, making it round, and the scoring helps it fold. Coffee helps me to pay attention. Just pulling it together doesn't work as well after you get the first one. You gotta kind of slowly creep up on it, do your best to get it lined up. But if it's not perfect, that's okay. You want to kind of see the line, because in the hat, like I'm wearing right now, you can kind of see the line. And this glue takes like 20-30 seconds to dry, so you can tighten it a little after sometimes. Yeah, good enough. And I go from side to side so that the side I just did has a little more time for the glue to set before I start pulling on it. And sometimes having it set down on the table can make it easier to line it up and push it together. Alright, let's move on to the next step, and I'll get back to this one off camera, but this one's already done. This is a blue one. These were my test ones. So this is 1mm foam, and this is also about 1mm foam, maybe 1.5, but I don't have black 1mm, so I have this. 2 servings of spaghetti is the circle size for the brim of the hat. I specifically chose to do this Mikey hat because it's orange and green, you can see what I'm doing. Where black, and I'm using a black pen, you can't really see what I'm doing. Oh, that didn't go very well. This foam is cheap. I almost went all the way through just with this pen. Let's try anyway. It's got a crack in it, but not going to use the whole thing. No, that came out shit. Back to this. So just a lot of trying to finesse it into place, but then some will come loose. And then getting it stuck to your finger because it's glue. Almost there. But then it kind of gets easier towards the end because you have your round shape already. A lot of the time you either get too little glue or too much glue. And the very last one. Alright, so we have the basic shape of the hat here. Let that dry a bit and we'll move on to the rim. So for the rim is 2 servings of spaghetti. So I'm being really careful on this one because this is where you're really going to see if you mess up the circle. Okay, now I have these really small scissors I'm going to use to get this straight. Just get a little bit off of each one on those lines that I drew before. And we have the basic shape of the hat here. Pick which is the best so that can be the front. Line it up here. I want it about there. So now I'm going to go like 2 millimeters back and trace that for this because you're not going to see it. Okay, this was the side. A little bit of glue on the rim. Now we pretty much have our hat, but again, because the shape of their head, I'm gonna add a little bit on the inside. This extra piece I cut off from the rim to make it a little thicker in there. And because the foam's so thin, you can just kind of push it into place and it'll take the shape. Alright, let that dry. And then we're gonna do the pants now. Okay, pants. So this was my first template for the pants. I traced his legs. It was easier to trace on this guy because he's not wearing a jacket. I made my first pair and I got them on, but they're too skinny. So you need room extra for the glue line on the inside and the outside. Then I tried a bigger one, but these ones were too big. I have this, and then I trimmed it down to this as my final, which I'll have templates in the community tab. I'll post them so you can follow along if you'd like. And for Raph, I want to go with this like jogging or sweatpants material. It's actually from a hoodie similar to this. I tried with a similar material from a different hoodie, and this was so thick it made it really tough. So I made a new pair of pants from actually the inside of the same hoodie, but it's a lot softer and thinner material. So I'm gonna trace this out here, and I need two, but only one has the V cut at the top because that's where the drawstring is gonna come through. Yeah, I don't need these anymore. Okay, now I feel normal. So in case I have the same problem with this that I had with the black one, I have some backup pants here, because with the t-shirt material, the thinner, more stretchy material is much better because it's thinner and more stretchy. Yeah. So we got to start with need the drawstring, and for that I have this red it's crochet yarn. I'm gonna cut a good size piece, pretty thin. Found it easier if I do two together to get a little bit thicker. So I'm just gonna twist that up a bit and tie a knot in one end, and maybe twist it up some more because you want it kind of twisted so it doesn't look like two strings when it's finally in there, but it'll just untwist when you let go. So twist it again up here. And then a knot in the other end, and now we have one rope. We can shorten it after, but it's easier when it's long like this. Now with a little bit of weight, now just adding a little bead of super glue underneath the drawstring and fold it over. Might have not folded that over enough. Then you want to try and pull the string through before the glue sets, so just in case you don't want the string to get glued down. Alright, got it. So I just glue one side here, and I'm going to move on to the other half of the pants and do it like in a circle. That's going to go there. And so this is going to be the inside of the pants. I learned in like grade 7 home ec about turning stuff inside out, which we'll get to later. Oh, that's a little far away. Now we're going to flip it around and come in from the other side. Get this out of the way. So this is where extra length helps in the drawstring. Put some weight on there, there, and a little bit of glue. So this drawstring is going to be important to tighten the pants after, because they're pretty big, because you have to get them on up their legs and through their shoes. But even if you do get like glue on the string, just by holding it and then pulling it, it comes off, because it's just little bits of fibers will come off of the inside where you're pulling it, so the glue comes loose. But you gotta do it relatively soon before the glue fully dries. Now, you can get this by pulling the drawstrings. Now make them line up on each side. Now we want to flip them over, line it up, so I glued like to the top but not the very top, so that you still have like a little give in your rope if you need to stretch it to put them on or off. Make sure the glue is set before we move on to the next step. Wow, the cameras are gonna die soon. But another reason I don't film like this so often. Do the inside leg. I want to get close to the edge, because then the thicker this is, the harder it is when you turn it inside out, well, outside in. Anyway, when you try to put the legs through the legs, because you have to turn it inside out, it gets really tough if the glue part is thick, or the hem part, or the hem at the bottom, the stitch. I'm going to cut a little bit off that sticks out. Now, the last side, and we have a pair of pants. Pants are easier than the hat. I mean, they're a little tough with the drawstring, but once you get used to it, like if you're going to try this yourself, I'd expect that you'd probably have to try a couple times. Well, maybe not. I did, but I didn't have anyone showing me what to do or giving me any advice at all. I just kind of figure stuff out on my own. Alright, now before we try and turn them inside out, I have my pen here. I'm going to check the stitches. Well, it's not stitches, it's glue. Stitching would be better, but you can kind of see how thick that is there. We stretch it, but we don't want to, well, we want to see if the glue is going to break, because if it can hold up now, it's got a better chance of surviving. That's good. We'll take the extra off from here, since it's not always going to line up perfectly. Okay, let's try the other leg before we turn it inside out. This is the hard part. But if you can kind of go one leg at a time and just slowly pull it through, again, because the material is so thick, because it's actually like pants material as opposed to a t-shirt, doesn't want to come through, and then it might break some of the glue points, then fix them after. But yeah, this is the same problem I had with the black pants. Once it gets started, just pull a little at a time, and then eventually you can push it through from the other side. I'm gonna just like skip most of this, but it is a little tedious and annoying. So I don't recommend you use actual like sweatpants materials to make the sweatpants, because this is tough, but t-shirts or thinner, stretchier fabric works way better. It's like no problem to pull the legs through, which is what I should have saved for on film, but I figure if I show you the hardest parts of it, you'll know what not to do. I'm always trying to help at my own discomfort or displeasure or whatever. Come on. Once you get close, push it from the other side, but still want to be gentle because I don't want to break the glue. Oh, yeah, we got one. This one. Come on. Okay. Oh, and that camera, I'm doing it towards the camera that doesn't work because the battery is dead. Get this leg through. Back to this side. Almost. Yeah. We got it through. Awesome. So yeah, it's a little thick on the inside, but after we'll fold this up. Let's get it on him. Oh, even these hats, they have trouble staying on. I mean, if you move them, they're gonna fall off just because of the shape of the head. And if you put some glue tack on the inside, and then it will stick to his head better. But if you're just having them on display, it works just fine. Oh, there, no, it almost stayed on. But first, let's get these pants on him. Or first, I wanna trim these. So we're gonna leave some extra rope in case we have to loosen it, and also we're gonna tie it after. Worked out so far. So we wanna try and get them on slowly, getting it around the shoe, like one at a time, a little at a time. These guys, without the shoes would be a lot easier to get this on, because then their foot just bends like that. But with the shoe it makes it a little tougher. So if you want to make it for those guys, that would be good too. I'm not going to show you how to make jackets. Jackets are tougher, and mine already have jackets. So they're pretty big. That's why we have the drawstring. You can tighten them. And we want to try to get this up underneath the jacket in the back, which can be tough. The jacket's a little stiff. It's like a silicone plastic, but still snug in the back. But if you can get at least where the drawstring is all up under there, it'll fit better in the front. There we go. So pretty big, but now try not. Okay. Now we can fold up the cuff at the bottom, or fold it in, to make it look like there's a cuff at the bottom of the pants, and so we can still see the shoes. But if I did this before, it would just pop out when I put the pants on. So that's why I saved this for later, or the shoe wouldn't fit through. Alright, these are a little big, but still pretty good. Better than no pants, because you might get arrested. And also, now they could actually blend in if they just pretend they're wearing green gloves and they stay in the shadows, because they have pants and a hat and a jacket, so it's much more like something a human would wear instead of a mutant who lives in the sewer. Now they're ready for a night on the town. I've had problems getting into a bar just because I'm wearing Timberland boots. If I wasn't wearing any pants, well, I don't think any bar would let me in. And not a bar that I would want to go to. Anyways, so that's how I made these pants and hats for my best action figures. I'll have the templates in the community tab. And next week I'll be doing Venus from the IDW comics. So until then, remember, always keep your head up. Peace.